Because actually, what we could go into real quick, if you're done with me, then and you want to end it, we can end it. But,
no. I don't care. That's such a good soundbite.
We in terms
Nailed
of like, so because the nature of what we're trying to establish with this pod is, real estate based, but the lives that we're living and how, but still tangentially tied into the real estate business that we kind of are trying to run and trying to educate people in how it works, maybe on the behind the curtain side or whatever on the consumer side. But what you talked about last week was how a lot of purchasers in our area they don't grow up here necessarily. They come from downstate or another area, second homes, buying land to build, recreational property, whatever. There are people from more urban or suburban environments where, like you said something about natural gas. So natural gas is not that common in our area. If you're in some of our cities and some of our villages have it, but natural gas it has to be in a infrastructure. It is piped in through networks.
Right.
And so I'm in a little tiny hamlet, but around me is open fields and woods. I don't have natural gas pipes at my road. It would cost
That's right.
ridiculous amounts of money for any company to want to provide that service. So natural gas is by and large not an option for our rural properties. So then in terms of our heat options right now, it is propane, which most people are, they're leasing a tank system from a local provider. You can buy them, but most people still lease. They don't look the prettiest. I mean, that's a secondary thing,
God,
but
they're
whatever.
so ugly. I have them on the side. No, that's not a secondary thing. They're so ugly.
Yeah, you'd think they could like redesign. You'd think there'd be someone that did that, but
not only that, but when they decided where to put them on my property, they picked the most visible space right when
they
you
have to be
drive
accessible.
in.
Yeah,
I don't care. I'm like, can we put it on the back of the house? They're like, no, my hose has to reach. I'm like, very ugly. So go ahead.
So yeah, we have propane, and then the same thing, oil. Oil is very similar. Liquid stored in a tank. Sometimes they're in basements. Sometimes they can have exterior tanks, which are more of a kerosene derivative. And sometimes they're buried. Again, that was that's now outdated because you don't know if you have an oil tank leak. It's not a great thing to
you
not
don't know if it's there, right?
But anyway, that's oil. And then really beyond those two, you do have some electric resistance like baseboard. And then you have your pellet stoves, your wood stoves. And you can have wall mount like small sort of like space heaters that are propane based as well. And they're ventless or vented. But those are kind of like our options. So I just thought it was, you mentioned it earlier about natural gas. And I was like, for a lot of our people locally, that's a
yeah, it's not an option. Exactly. It's not an option. No. And I lived in the city, and it's funny because when we first bought this house, not that we were green to the country. My dad had a country house in the Adirondack, so believe me, I've been in the cold. But when we got this house, we had been living in Queens for quite a few years and had central air. And I remember coming up here in the winter because it was going to be fun to have a country house. And then, hi, Pepper. And then the cold. And I remember saying to Joe once, like, I need to go home. I need to go back to Queens because there's central air. I can't do this. And it's so funny because now we're used to it. It's 55 degrees in my bedroom through the winter on the cold nights. It could be, and it has to be kind of close to zero or negative for it to get that cold in here. Otherwise, it sits at about 65 degrees. Like, the good news is that in the summertime, it also is cold. It stays pretty cold in my house year round, which is odd because I have porches. So one thing that people should know about real estate, I have a front porch, which is amazing. I have a back porch screened in, which is amazing. But I will tell you, I get zero sunlight in the center of the house, which is my kitchen. And it is cold. It is cold when it is 90 degrees outside. My kitchen is cold. Of course, you appreciate it then. But days like today, when it's 37 all day, I hate my kitchen. And that's why I want a mini split. I want to put it on the cold side of the house. Kitchen, bathroom, bedroom, mudroom. Just have 4 little guys on that one system. That's all I need in my life. So maybe I'll try to do that. I'll work on that.
Yeah. Yeah, well, the design of a heat pump system is incredibly important. So again, this is something that I looked into quite a bit. I did this to my own house. So you just told us a little bit about your domestic setup, and your house is like a dark. Well, you live in a little like river valley. It's already kind of a dark spot, if you will. You don't get a lot
I
of direct
didn't realize.
sun.
Yeah, right.
And then
exactly.
you do have these big, beautiful, big porches, but they do like again, modern passive house design or using natural light is an effective way to warm your spaces, and you can actually.
Right.
You can actually design roof overhangs so that in the winter they're letting a lot of sun in, but in the summer they're not. If you get the overhang to the right angle, that's more like a passive house concept. But either way, if you want, I can tell you how I updated my home, and it does relate to efficiency and envelopes and heat pumps and all that. I mean, we don't have to right now, but it'd probably be a 4-minute dive into my process. Do you know this story?
I mean, you're the one that recommended the guy come out,
Yeah.
that he had a really, you said, holistic approach to how he
did.
actually installs mini splits. And I was like, oh, I'm into holistic approaches to things.
Well-
And again, like his recommendation was to do the entire house, which financially I can't. Like, if he was willing to do the cold side, it would already be done. So, but take it away.
Well, no, I mean, again, it's all relative. Now, I bought my house is very much a fixer-upper. It is not a fancy place. It's a very modest, humble home, but I was able to buy it for a humble price, which allowed me to keep some cash on the side because I knew I would have to invest into some efficiency improvements because efficiency does drive me. So I actually almost purposefully bought a somewhat crappy house because I was like, I want to kind of prove to myself that I know what I'm doing and I can make this really nice and efficient. So
That's also the
now-
way to buy real estate, though, is get a good deal,
right,
and
buy
then you'll
low.
have more
But
equity.
you're gonna have to. Yeah, my inside of my house still looks atrocious. To be fair, like you see one wall behind. This is the only one wall in my house that looks decent. But anyway,
Let's go. Let's have a painting party. Come on, we don't have to leave it atrocious.
So here was the state of things when I bought my house. Again, it's a relatively square footprint, so I didn't have a lot of wings, which did help me in my favor. However, my house is on slope, so the front of my house, as I sit now, I'm looking at a road, so I'm almost at road level or ground level, but then the ground slopes down. So behind me, my basement is basically a walkout basement, right? So about 3/4 of the footprint of my home is above grade. So I have like very little basement per se because there's only soil like for a third of a quarter of the front of the house. So I get, which is interesting, but it also means any cold air or warm air doesn't have to get through soil to get into my house, right? So I have very little of that natural basement buffer. So when I moved in, the former owner, there were single pane windows throughout my house, meaning rattly old, like loose window panes with just air billowing in. I have a concrete block basement, and some of the blocks were broken, and they were just like literally like softball size, just kind of like cracks and holes, just again, cold winter air, just like busting in. And then my attic was just old, like not even cellulose insulation. It was like cotton, like just some weird crap from like probably the 30s. So incredibly poorly insulated home. Again, almost on purpose. I got this because I had a plan. So the first thing was I replaced all the windows. I did the same thing you did. Window World saves the day. We're not sponsored. We can't. Window World sponsor us. But they did the trick, right? So that covered the leakiness of the windows, and again, I spent money on this, but I then spray foamed my entire attic. So instead of having insulation in the ceiling, which is what an unvented conventional old house would have, you just have some whatever fiberglass or cellulose sitting on your roof joists. I was able to spray foam up to my roof deck, and like 7 inches of spray foam. So a really thick, robust coat of spray foam. It's also kind of like a glue, by the way. People don't think about this, but it actually glued my house together a lot stronger. Now, there are debates on whether you should spray right up to your roof deck or not, but I did because my roof is metal, and I can always just pull the metal off and replace it with new metal. But they say if you have a leak, you'll never know. It's true. I guess it's true. I'll never know. But guess what? Spray foam doesn't leak, so I actually
Maybe you
will
don't
never
need to
know
know.
because it's actually protected.
You don't need to know.
So I did that. So that helped keep all that heat from, again, escaping out the top of my home, which was crazy. And then I also spray foamed most of the exterior of my basement, not all the way down to the bottom, but like 3/4, 4/5 of the way. So I now have glue and insulation in my top and the bottom of my home. I didn't go into my walls at all. My walls are all still old. I don't think there's any insulation, and you do lose heat through your walls, but not as much. Most of it goes up through convective forces. So anyway, now I've done all that, and now I've still got a forced air oil furnace. Oh, and by the way, before I spray foamed the basement, there was almost no insulation down there. So think about this. I have an oil combustion furnace in my freezing cold basement because I've got 20-degree, 5-degree air coming in these huge holes. My basement is like literally 25 degrees on a couple days that February I moved in. And I've got a furnace. I'm fighting this battle to burn oil to create heat that's then going through uninsulated metal ducts through my 25-degree basement up into my first floor of my house, where it comes out of the register and it's already like 62 degrees. I'm like, wow, this is like mildly warm air. Thanks, furnace. And that's because it's fighting the battle of its life just to beat the cold basement.
Just to
so that's
be
why
warm.
That's why I first battle was secure that basement space, make it warmer so that the heat I'm creating can actually be used upward. Then it was cap off the top so I'm not leaking that air. Now my envelope is holding my heat much better, right? So that's cool. Then I was like, yeah, I still don't love my furnace. So then I went and did a whole house heat pump system. So I have this is way too much talking, but I have a 4-ton heat pump right behind me, a condenser apparatus outside, and I have 3 downstairs cassette units, and I have one air handler in my attic that then is ducted from the top with little ducts down into all my bedrooms and my bathroom upstairs, because my upstairs had no heat at all either, just like yours. So now I've got actually a far improved engineered system. I can touch one thermostat upstairs and all those rooms get heat or AC, right? And I have 3 different thermostats in my first floor level where I can customize how I want things, and those are all their own thermostat. So I love this. I've had it for 3 years now, and my very worst electric bill last winter was $450. That's my worst ever. But in all summer long, this summer, I was using AC, super comfortable, by the way. Like, I'm lounging, man. You guys are suffering, sweating. I am lounging. My electric bill is like $112. And I love it. I mean, if I compare that to the oil bill I was starting to spend for that first winter, it would have been $800, $900 a month on just heat. And then I add my normal $100 electric bill. It would have been $1,000 to run my house per month. So over time, I am saving money. Now, I had to dump a ton of cash to do that, right? That was not an easy project to do. And honestly, probably I won't ever get the benefit of this. I mean, I'm enjoying it right now because it's comfortable. The truth is, I'll probably sell my house in 5 years, and that next owner is going to get all the benefit of what I did, because they're going to live super efficient, super happy, super comfortable. But I'm proud to have taken an old nasty house, and I've given it a new life in that way anyway. And now it's going to be, for the next 30 years, going to be super efficient. So that's my story.
I love that story. I mean, that's kind of what we do. I think one of the reasons why I got into real estate was because of how much I love older homes and love the potential that they have. And one of the things that hopefully we get to do is do this for other people, because not everybody can buy an old house like that, fix it up, get it efficient, do the things it needs, and then put it out affordably to market. I mean, so that a family can buy it and they don't ever have to be in something that's not efficient. That would be the dream.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, it's not that everyone has to care to the level that I might about whatever this efficiency stuff. That's not the point. But the point is, hopefully, that an agent in the modern era should kind of know, like, just to bring it back to, again, like what the buyers or sellers are experiencing out there. Like, your agent should know what your options are. Your agent should know what ballpark might cost, or, ballpark how to heat a certain type of space. If you all have tiny little rooms, heat pumps are not great because you're going to have a lot of them. If you've got a big, massive, great room, pop a mini split in there and you will be loving life, because that thing loves to just sit there at a steady state and just churn along. But it doesn't do well at getting through doors. It doesn't do well, like there's things that every technology has their pros and cons. So if you got a little laundry room where you never had any heat in it, you might want to just put a little electric baseboard down there and keep that thing on 52 degrees, and at least it won't freeze, So
exactly, yeah. Exactly. Just at
agents
least it
should
won't
know,
freeze.
agents should be in a lot of different houses, first of all, and seeing how people do things, and then seeing what the industry is evolving into, and then able to help their clients and say, cool, like you're buying a log cabin here and all they have is electric baseboard. That's awesome. It's fine.
But
it's
that's
maybe
a
a
conversation.
more of an outdated tech, but it's going to work fine. And you might want to throw that pellet stove in there because that thing will rip roar and you'll be loving life. Well, whatever.
Right, and right now I have the buyers that bought that old 1800s historic farmhouse, and one of the issues is it's halfway renovated. It has no heating system, and so they were asking me. They were actually asking about heating systems. And again, it's in a town, it's in a village, so there might be more options there for them, but at the end of the day, I literally was like, you should probably look into mini splits because it's going to be self-sufficient. Like it doesn't have to be connected to other. There's no piping or anything you have to worry about. It's not like central. But at the same time, it would probably give them the most efficient heating and be self-sustainable on this property that's got just space around it. And I don't know that it'll be the cheapest option for them, but I think they would probably get the most out of it. And they're at that stage in the renovation where everything's been reframed. The downstairs has been sheetrocked. They might move some stuff around, but upstairs is just all open, so that it's really for them to decide how they want to seal it, how efficient they want to make it. And my recommendation was just look into mini splits, because that's what I would do in my old farmhouse once it's efficient. But they absolutely have the opportunity to make it efficient.
They would have options. That's kind of fun, though. I mean, they would probably be best served by talking to several contractors from a few different types of sources. But again, I mean, I'm not going to give advice on that because. But I mean, you could do it a lot of different ways. If you have essentially a gutted house, then you gotta have a lot of options right now. Again, until New York takes away our fossil fuel purchasability, that will be again, like to circle back to how we started this topic today. It's not happening in 2026. It's not going to happen for a few years, but it is on the horizon that we are moving away from calling up your propane company and being like, "Can you put in a propane wall mount heater?" Like that we are getting a little closer to that not being a thing we do anymore. And I don't know, it's a big disruption to our local industry, to our statewide industry, and our lifestyle and our expectations of things. It's just like anything in life, we have to be adaptable, but when do we have to adapt, and why are we adapting, right? And I think that's what it's almost like anything on a like you talked about before, a mandate. Anytime you're trying to mandate something, you'd better explain it. You'd better make sure the public understands why this is important, and it can't just.
And if you're going to mandate it, then you better have some kind of a way. You better have a rebate. If you're going to mandate, you better rebate that shit. I should be able to buy one mini split and get one free. You need to be able to subsidize that. If you're going to require something like that for families to do, then you better step in and help us pay for it. That's the number one thing. Affordability, when we talk about Market Monday, we see the affordability is just crapola.
Yep.
Things are very expensive, and groceries are very expensive, and everything's very expensive. By the way, you're going to have to spend $30,000 and upgrade your heating. Yeah, no, I'll get a blanket. They're not going to do it unless you're going to give some deep discounts or figure out a way to help people do that. And what I'm afraid of, and again, this is because I don't know. Fear comes out of that unknown, and that's why we have these conversations. But when they do finally mandate it and you don't do it, same kind of thing they did with healthcare. You don't have the healthcare, well, now you can pay a fine. So now people are going to be fined because they can't afford to do it. So there's all kinds of like implications and things, and we go crazy because we've had things mandated before, and with consequences behind it. And it's like, you know what? That's just mean. That's just mean to do. So I'm glad it got delayed. I'm glad we have time. I'm glad that people have a heads up and they can start thinking about that. And maybe one of the things we do too is we share some resources of where they can contact people to, you know, get their homes insulated or sealed, and Window World should definitely sponsor an episode. They probably do have a higher grade of window. I just didn't get it. I had old farmhouse windows, so the Window World windows were better. They are not perfect, and I have to lock them. You know, I have to make sure everything's locked tight for the winter. Otherwise, air will definitely come through. But yeah, being able to connect people to the resources they need is smart.
Oh, I'll tell you what.
Sometimes people don't know where to start.
This is how much of a geek I am about this stuff. I have the decent level, like probably whatever mid-low tier double pane. They're not like high end. They're okay. But what I still do, I take masking tape, like a white painter's tape, and I still go around all the edges of my windows where they basically connect and where any of the seams are. And I'll take 2 hours. It's 2 hours of my life, dude. But I'll tape my windows off as soon as I'm done with like the summer, because I'm like, I'm not going to open this thing for another 6 months. So I tape it off. Guess what? That at least keeps that little bit of air from leaking through, even if it's, you know, it slows it down anyway. It's not an insulation, but it stops a flow.
Well, that's not a bad idea, because we have 3 doors. We have the back door that my house is on backwards. So we use the back door and the back porch as the front. Like, and the front of the house just faces the creek, and we never use it. We don't go on that porch. We don't use that front door. That front door, if you stand next to it, you're going to feel a breeze. It's ridiculous. And you can see a gap like this. So we have a carpet like at the bottom, but the whole around. So I'm going to do that because I have that white. It's like a white duct tape. Really thick,
you can honestly use
tape.
like actual masking tape, like old school masking tape. Masking tape is a form of painter's tape.
Yeah, I'm going to use it. I'm going to use duct tape.
Cheaper.
I'm going to get that bitch.
Well, that might, that might pull off your paint or your
I will
finishes.
touch it up. I'll touch it up in the summertime. That's not a bad idea. I'm going to tape my door shut.
I bought a 6-pack of teachers like masking tape, and I just went, not like every window, but all the ones I know I never open, I just went around and just sealed them off.
Schmat. You got to do what you got to do in an old farmhouse. So yes, if you're a downstate buyer, call us. Because you need to know these things, and you need to know that the house you walk into, it might be super cute, but yeah, how is it being heated? And what does that look like in the summer? And what does that look like in February?
Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts on this. This was a good one.
Well, thank you for sharing your thoughts. You're the one that had the meat,
I feel like I spoke at length.
You were loquacious. And you had the meat, I had the potatoes. So we were a good team.